Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Friday, June 12th. This is virtual lunch number 65. Amazing. Okay. With Night Owl Global, who's the generous sponsor of today's program. So Phyllis, I'm so honored that you're joining us today. Thank you for doing this.
Sure, thank you. I'm just pleased to see so many people on this virtual lunch. I didn't know what to expect, but thank you for the very kind invitation. So I started my career at the Environmental Protection Agency, and I like to say that I kind of stumbled there. It was right out of law school, and I went to the University of Florida, and my only goal was to get out of Gainesville, Florida, and go back home to Atlanta. And the part-time role turned to full-time within 6 months. 6 months, I think within a year, I got an award, which I was told that was very rare. And within 4 years, I was branch chief. In my mid-30s, I was appointed to be the regional counsel for the Atlanta office. And I ended up coming anyway to be the deputy assistant administrator for a guy by the name of J.P. Suarez. He left probably 2 years after getting there, and he went to Walmart and subsequently asked me to come to be the chief compliance officer for the environmental program. So from there, I was asked to take on the role to be the chief compliance officer for everything in the U.S. I was then asked to come finally into the legal department to take on the role of standing up a legal operations team, as well as managing all of the corporate legal functions. I was there for about 13 years. I had a vision for what I wanted, which was simple: to number one, equip the attorneys with the right outside counsel for the things they needed to get done, and more importantly, manage those costs in an effective and efficient way. As well as, most importantly, ensuring that we were hiring diverse teams on our matters. Most in-house legal departments, they typically fail because you can't get the staff attorneys, your attorneys, to kind of make that change. It's a huge change, because basically you're telling them, I no longer want you to negotiate these fee arrangements. We have a team here, we're going to negotiate those fee arrangements. I no longer want you to automatically approve additional timekeepers, because we're going to start getting budgets for matters that will articulate the number of timekeepers on a matter, and we're going to track that. So getting the attorneys to understand that we're taking work away from you so that you can use your time on your cases. It took a little while for them to understand it, but probably within a year or so, it was like, thank you, we appreciate that. I think mentally had gotten to a place that I'm like, what's next? And got a call out of the blue to look at the Red Cross. And so I've been here for about a year and a half. I think at the end of the day, legal work is legal work. And even though the Red Cross is a nonprofit, it is a very sophisticated nonprofit that actually has a business, and it is the blood business. And we still have the humanitarian work in the midst of the pandemic. Last week we had Tropical Storm Cristobal, depending on how you want to pronounce it. And so we had to figure out, how do we house individuals that need housing safely? And then at the end of the day, again, it's about the people. And
Albert, who's with Night Owl Global, who's the generous sponsor of today's program. And so Albert texted me that he has a question.
What is the most rewarding thing about your role at Red Cross? I was just reading something today about blood donations, and they're down by a significant amount, almost very scary. But anyway, I would like to hear what you have to say about that.
The blood supply is very low, and it is somewhat concerning. When we started the pandemic, we were in a very similar place, because everybody was locked down. No one really wanted, or they were afraid to kind of get out. And through various PSAs, and we got the Surgeon General, the Vice President, we got a lot of people to say it's okay to give blood, right? It's okay to give blood. And then when you have someone like Tom Hanks, who actually goes through and comes out of this virus, and then he shows himself giving convalescent plasma, I think that gave people a lot of a sense of comfort. So we did have a period where the inventory levels were they just rocketed because we got all of those donations. But for whatever reason, we're seeing some of the donations go down, which actually happens every summer. And then at the same time, demand is coming up from hospitals because elective surgeries are picking up. And in particular, we're seeing a lot of concern with people of color, Black people, because we still have lots of patients, particularly young patients, who need transfusions for sickle cell. And the Black community has been disproportionately impacted by the coronavirus, in addition to historically a lot of misgivings about the medical community and, you know, just blood donations in general. I'm a big believer that in order to be a great in-house counsel, and particularly the general counsel, you've got to know the business. On the humanitarian side, I think the biggest surprise for me was the dedication of our volunteers. It's just inspiring.
David is, of course, also with Night Owl Global, like Albert. And David, fire away.
Do you find that as a sort of a benevolent organization that it's easier to work now with your outside vendors on rates, or do you have a combination of rates and pro bono agreements with your vendors at Red Cross?
I found that I was able to negotiate to some degree better rates when I was at Walmart than I am while at the Red Cross. For some of our counsel, I've had to reset expectations around some of these things. So we have a couple of go-to firms that are very gracious. We don't get anything pro bono. We try to negotiate rate discounts, and it just kind of depends.
You've seen in some way leadership in the legal community displayed differently in the recent kind of weeks and months, given what's been happening in the world?
I have seen lots of statements. From my perspective, I think law firms have been very quiet. And as a mother, as well as someone who I mentor young Black attorneys all the time, I hear the rhetoric, but as they, you know, back in the day, that Wendy's commercial where they said, "Where's the beef?" Like, where's the beef? Like, what are we truly going to see differently? We have a lot of attorneys of color who they flounder in their first 2 years because they're not giving meaningful work. They're not giving meaningful opportunities. The first thing I say is, have you gotten any feedback? Because what you find is there is this resistance or anxiety for many to not give good feedback, not give direct feedback. Things that I would like to see that I think would move the needle would be, show me that you are actively going to the places where you can recruit people of color. These issues are deep. I'm ready for some meaningful action. The more we can advocate for when we see that things are wrong, from the fact that we don't have enough people of color on this team. Why aren't they getting good work? But when you see that things aren't right, just speak up and do the right thing.
What an honor. Phyllis Harris, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a fantastic, what an honor. Wonderful virtual lunch. Thank you very much, Phyllis. And thank you to everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And thanks to Night Owl Global. Thank you.
Thank you, Night Owl.